Hey, what's the scene, guys? How are you all doing? My name is Adarsh Varghese, and welcome to another edition of What's the Scene Hangouts. In today's edition of What's the Scene Hangouts, we'll be talking to the absolutely amazing bass player Mohini Dey. Can't wait. Hey, Mohini, how have you been?
I'm good. How are you?
Very well, thanks, and thank you so much for being here today on this edition of What's the Scene Hangouts. It's
No
great to have
problem.
you.
Same. Thanks.
I want to go back to right at the start of your career. Several years ago, you've mentioned that you were inspired to play the bass after seeing your dad play the bass. And you also mentioned that he never really forced you to play the bass. He just said, if you want to play the bass, you play the bass. And he made
Yeah.
those statements.
It was only to do something in life. It was not about,
Yeah.
it was not like I have to be a musician, but to teach something so that your life doesn't go waste. So he started teaching me, and then it was like, it's her choice whether she wants to pursue it as her career or not. But there's no harm in teaching music or learning music because that's only going to give you peace in life. So yeah, you're right. Like he never forced in that way, but like it's a part of every Bengali culture. Like music is such a big thing in our family, and having both parents as musicians, you can only imagine what used to and what goes on in the house. You
Yeah.
know.
So, given that he said those things to you, how did you then take that desire to play the bass, and how did you structure it to work at it and get where you are today? What were those initial years like for you?
Right. So I always tell this like I never wanted to be a bass player. Although, like I said, I was taught to play the bass at a very young age, starting from the age of 3, and I
Crazy.
started taking lessons when I was 7. And I think around the age of 11 or 12 was the time when I felt like, okay, now I need to make a decision for my life. Like I need to take the big step ahead of what I want to do. And that was the time I got a job offered in A.R. Rahman's band, and I was also very, very, like you can tell, like I'm very fascinated towards getting ready and like, fashion as a whole. And after my 12th board exams, I applied for a fashion college, and that was like always there. Like I would tear up my mom's sari or my dad's t-shirt or shirts and stuff, and I just start stitching stuff for myself, or either be a blanket or like a curtain, something. Yeah, I was like totally into that, and I wanted to become a fashion designer. And I told my dad, but my dad was like never supportive of that because he thought that, oh, there are many female fashion designers, but there's no female bass player. So why not? Why don't you give it a shot and then you decide for yourself? Because you can actually do this on the side if you want to later on. So I was like, okay, cool. Maybe that actually made sense that time. And so I was like, maybe give it a shot. And like I said, that was the time when I got a job offered in A.R. Rahman's band. So I chose to be a part of A.R.'s band because in my head, I was like, I don't want all my foundation to go waste because I put in many, many hours and many, many sleepless nights. So I didn't want that to go waste. And I knew in my head that if I would spend a little more time with musicians outside, because I was only playing with myself, and playing with yourself is fine. It's like getting ready for the reality, the real world. That is very, very important. Your foundation has to be so strong that you're good enough to play with other people outside. So that was very important. But after a point, like I got really bored and I was like looking for people to kind of play. But I was also a very shy personality. So I didn't know how to communicate or have conversations at that time. So my mom and dad, either one of them, would like travel with me everywhere. And the first person that I met around the age of 12 was Ranjit Parrott, who I lovingly call as Ranjit Uncle. My dad, I'm good. He's good friends with him, and at that time they used to play together as well. They used to work with Hariharan and a lot of people like Lakshmikant Pyarelal, Kalyanji Anaji, so many people. And so he took me to Ranjit Uncle saying that he's getting a CD. So that CD was actually me. And he had no idea about his daughter playing the bass. He had like zero knowledge about that. So I went there with like my bass on the back and I started playing the bass. And he saw and he heard me and he started playing with me on his lap, because around that time he had actually stopped playing the drums. He was like on a break. He stopped playing the drums for a reason. I don't know the reason very well, but he was not playing that much. He was doing a lot of production work, you know, for a lot of movies and his own projects and everything. So he had stopped playing drums, but when I came to him was the time he started playing drums again, you know. So that was a good opening for him and for me as well, because I was never introduced to the industry. So he took me under his wings and he started playing with me. So that's why my time got really strong. And I already had a good time, but then playing with the drummer makes it even better, you know, for a bass player. And then I got to see all these other musicians who are like magicians and mathematicians, who, to name a few, would be, you know, Zakiji and like Sridhar Parthasarathi and
Yeah.
Aladri Kumar and many others. And then he used to play with a lot of like foreign musicians. So he would bring in a lot of like American, UK musicians, and I'd be just hanging out there after school. So after my school hours, after 12 p.m., I'd go straight directly to his studio and I'd just hang out in his studio and just see all these bass players play, like, you know, Jonas Hellborg, Dominic De Piazza, Etienne Mbappe, and blah, blah, blah. And that was really, really, like, it educated me a lot. Just closely seeing a musician play in front of you is very, very informative, you know. Although it's not like they're going to give you any lessons. No, it's not going to be like a teacher and a student sitting in a classroom and he's explaining or she's explaining how to do this or how to do that and why so and blah blah blah. No, it's not like that. You just get a few things in your head, like the voice, because when you're young you're struggling to find your voice, right? You want to find your individuality, the person you want to be, because you're
Right.
confused shuffling between so many different, especially for me it was very, very confusing because I was hopping in and out of Indian culture and this foreign culture, right? So for me, I was having a hard time finding which person I wanted to be, you know. And I was very, very fascinated by both. So I'm like a fusion of both, you know. Like I have a little knowledge of the Indian culture. Like I played with a lot of fusion artists and a lot of Carnatic musicians and like a lot of American musicians, Japanese musicians over the time, of course. And that makes me really, really fascinated because I love getting introduced to a lot of different tastes, you know, like foods, styles, accents. Like if you see, my accent keeps changing every 2 days. It's like my flight takes off, and that's why I tell like has duality and it's so transformative because at least for me it's like that. Like if I'm in America, I sound like an American person. If I'm in Mumbai, then I sound like a Mumbaiker, like a full Tapori Hindi person, you know. If I'm in Bangalore, then I sound like a South Indian, you know. So it's very funny and it's quite fun. It really it's fun for me. It's funny and fun at the same time.
That's awesome. I just a few minutes ago, just a while ago in the conversation, you were talking about how when you were 12, you decided to do something because you had to choose at that point. So it's remarkable that at such a young age you decided to have clarity in life, because many people have that conversation with themselves much later in life. And I also wanted to hear from you, when exactly did you play with Ranjit Barrett? Was it 16, 17? What age was that, playing with A.R. Rahman and Ranjit
Oh, I
Barrett?
started playing with him when I was like 12. So it's been what? I'm 24 now. It's been many, many years
12
I've been
years.
working.
Fantastic.
Oh, yeah.
Absolutely amazing.
Yeah, but I wouldn't say I started immediately gigging with him. I started playing with him in his studio, but I think I started performing with him around the age of, I'd say, 14. Yeah. So, like, good 2 years of just playing together. Maybe a few club gigs here and there, but the real, like, you know, shows, traveling and everything when I was 14. Yeah. Because
Awesome.
I remember at the age of 13, I was given a shock with Zakirji. Like, I had no idea I was going to play with Zakirji. And one day, my father gets a call from Ranjit Uncle saying that, you know, there's this jam session happening at Prithvi Theatre, and why don't you get Mohini? And my dad very smartly did not tell me, and he just took me there. And I'm seeing like Zakirji playing, sound checking actually. And I am like wearing this like almost like a life jacket kind of thing, like no fashion sense at all. Because for me, it was like so important to look my best. every time. Even today, like I love the whole process more than playing. I actually enjoy the whole process of
Getting
getting
ready.
ready for that thing. Because I've always been in the spotlight from a very young age, and I've always really enjoyed that, and that's why it pushed me to do better and better every single day. Whatever pushes you at the right direction, I feel like it's great. For me, it was the spotlight, and it made me a better musician. I'd say I evolve as a person. We all do, and we're always going to do that. So when I went there and I saw him like sound checking, and I had no knowledge that I was going to play there, and I was completely blown away by the way he was playing. And since I had no idea that I was going to play with him, it gave me a shock because my dad whispered in my ears, he's like, "You're going to play with him," and I'm like, what? Because that was actually, not many people know, that was my first jam session. Like nobody ever threw me in a space like that, in a group of people like Zakir Ji, Niladri Kumar, Tawfiq Qureshi, Fazal Qureshi, and so many more, and Ranjit Uncle himself, and in front of a huge crowd. For a 13-year-old, it's like mind-boggling in a bad way. It's shocking. So when I was told, I was very, very shocked. And my bass, my dad carried his bass, and I didn't have my own bass that time. So I was like playing on my dad's bass. So Zakir came up to me and he was like, let's play something in E flat. And that's very unusual for a bass player, for a guitar player also. Like any flats or sharps is like very unusual. And he was like, let's do something in E flat. And I was like, oh shit. And anyway, it was a shock playing with him. And now the scale. So I was like planning in my head what to do, what to play, and blah, blah, blah. So then I started playing. Everything went well by God's grace. And yeah, I still remember this because it was so embarrassing. Like when everybody started playing. So I started playing first and then everybody started joining me. And there was this section of Jugal Bandi. And I looked at Zakir and I was like, no. I was like, please don't include me in this one. I'd suck. I can't do it. So I didn't do it. And after that day, after the show, I cried my ass off. And Zakir saw that and he was like so appreciative and so humble and so nice to me. He was like, he's putting his hands on my head and he's like, you played amazing, baby. Like, don't worry about a thing. You were so good and blah, blah, blah. And I was like, no, I was not good. I could have done this and blah, blah, And that pushed me even harder to work on myself more. So I think it's very important to get a little kick in the ass sometimes, so you feel those embarrassments and you work on yourself, and that kind of pushes me every single day. That has been my life from a very young age. I guess I could get away with it that time because I was young, but if I do that now, no. Not at all. Yeah,
that's awesome. And you talked about feeling the kick in the ass every once in a while. I think you're also delivering the kick in the ass to other players every once in a while for them to introspect and inspire them in a positive way, not in a negative way, but to feel like, okay, to feel like, okay,
Yeah.
you're playing these things and they want to grow as well.
Every person, it works out very differently,
Yeah.
Like for me, it could have been bad or good, and for you, it could be the same,
Absolutely.
It can work, might not work for you, So
Yeah.
you just have to find like what works for you, and then just do what works for you and serves you the best,
Absolutely. Just a few sentences ago, just a while ago, you were talking about how you were jamming how you jam and how you've also jammed in the past at a very young age with lots of people across different genres. And you were also talking at the time about finding your voice, how it's so important to find your voice. And when you mentioned that, there was a question from But Does It Chug, who asked a question. He says, did playing different styles or genres of music with so many different musicians help you create or shape your own style on the guitar? Or was it challenging to find your sound?
Absolutely. And I'll elaborate on that how, because we're Indians, okay? So I find myself very, very lucky to have been brought up and taken birth, in India, because we're culturally so diverse,
Mm-hmm.
we have the best mathematicians, and we, from the time of birth, we are very good at maths, and since we are culturally so diverse, I feel like we have an advantage of an understanding of what things can be, and different kinds of attires, different kinds of languages. We have so many languages, we have so many recipes, dishes, and blah blah blah. So we are at an advantage, and we should take full power of that. We should take full advantage of that, I feel like. And yes, to answer that question, it is absolutely amazing to do more study and to go out in the world and see more things, because you will actually find things that fascinates you, or gives you feelings like, that makes you overwhelmed. When I
Hmm.
go to Japan, their food is like amazing, and I get inspired by that sometimes. Or their language, I want to learn how they speak. When they speak English, it's so cute. They're also doing the same. We're all looking for something that kind of excites us. At the end of the day, I feel like we're all looking for something that makes us happy. um, I feel like when you are in that journey of doesn't necessarily mean you have to be in search all the time. No, you don't have to do that. It just happens naturally. uh, I feel like in every generation there has been a shift. Like there is like today I'm this person, I was not this person 5 years ago, not at all. There were things that were different. Maybe if this was 10 years ago, then I'd be a completely different person. So we are all evolving, and the same way our world is evolving as well. So it's very important to keep ourselves updated with time and be in the journey of just keeping an eye out. And find what excites you the most, like be it food, be it colors, be it like for me, sparkle, glitter are the things I really love. So I infuse that with everything, like my bags, my guitar, my belts, my dresses, my makeup. So that really makes me happy. And when you do that, you are actually going to start picking these good things and things that excites you and put it in one box. And put it in one box in your head, and you're going to apply that in all the things that you love doing. So yes, listen to lots of different kinds of music. When I listen to different kinds of bass players, when I listen to different kinds of drummers, when I listen to different kinds of guitar players, everything really makes me excited. I want to do that lick on my bass. I want to sound like a flamenco player. I want to do that drummer's lick and pick up that technique, and I want to play that on my bass. I want to sound like a tabla player. How about I infuse everything and make a groove which has every technique,
Hmm.
and which was all the things in one groove or in one solo. So it's just a vision that everybody should have. When you have the vision set for yourself, then everything's kind of easy. But if you don't have a vision, then it's hard. You're always going to be confused what you like.
That's a good point. Great
Yeah.
point. Um, and you mentioned a while ago that just like how your accent changes when you go to Bombay or New York or wherever,
Yeah.
do you feel like in different contexts when you play the bass as well, the way you played or your tone is adapted to that setting?
Absolutely, absolutely. I say this in my master classes. Like, since now I'm an evolved person and I know what I like, that's why I'm more sure about how I want every bass to sound like. So
Hmm.
I would like go into the settings and I'll change it up and I'll make it a tone. I'll make a tone that serves my kind of playing or my kind of technique. But if this was me like probably 6 7 years ago, then I was still searching like what I like. I'm still like getting introduced to new sounds and new synths, new tones and everything. So that time when I would hold a new bass or a new instrument, I just let it flow and not change anything, be it like a 50% passive knob or, 100% high mids. So what I'd do is I'd put everything on zero, and then I'd push up everything by a 50% and see what each is doing, what each knob is doing. And that way it's a very good way to find out what you like. You're not going to find it right away. Every base has its own configuration, every base has its own technicalities. it might not be a 34.3 scale length. It can be sometimes 32. So that makes a difference. Or sometimes it can be your bass might have a higher action, so lowering the action makes a huge difference in your playing, then pickups make a huge difference. The wood of the body makes a huge difference. So when you do your study and when you're more experienced about what you like, then you know what you want on your bass. And that's why people with endorsements, they are more aware of what they want, and that's why they go for an endorsement, because they know what they want and they're not going to change. So, like, I endorse smart bass amps, I endorse mayonnaise basses, groove gear, Lathan bassware, PC electronic pedals, bass pedals, Providence cables. All these companies have been my go-to places even before I started playing a specific kind of bass. I always knew, and I was always looking out on YouTube and other places on social media, checking out other bass players and doing my study that, okay, it can sound like this. It's very versatile, and that's what I need because I want to do this kind of music. I want to do that kind of music. So whatever serves your purpose, everything, you should have like I said, you should have a vision, and then it's very, very easy.
Absolutely. Just a while ago, there was someone in the feed. I don't know who it was because I've missed the name, but they were asking how many hours you practice a day. And one of my questions, which I'll add to that, is how do you structure your practice sessions?
I don't practice anymore nowadays. Some people might say it's bad, but I don't need to anymore. I feel like my foundation has been so strong that I don't need to anymore. But so I pick up my bass when I feel like, nowadays, during this lockdown, we have so much time to ourselves. I'm a businesswoman, okay? So, like, I'm always looking for ideas that will give me some profit, or like if it can serve my music, things like that.
Mm-hmm.
Or like merchandise, stuff like all those kind of things, having my own music school or anything like that, sort of like that. So since I have a business kind of mind, it does not allow me to spend more time with my bass. Before, I'd say maybe 5 years ago, 4 to 5 years ago, if this was 4 to 5 years ago, I'd easily go on for like 8, 9 hours, constantly not have food, no water, just like lock myself into a room and just do my riyaz, constantly practice, or like pick up solos and try to study them. Why this phrase has been used? Why this inversion? Why this mode? What is it doing? What if I use this? And blah, blah, blah. Picking up each other's techniques. Oh, I want to know what Victor is using in that part, and blah, 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 So when I was doing all that, it's very exhausting. It's very, very exhausting. But since I'm a rebel, when I decide on something, I have to do it. Like, I just cannot be at peace if I don't do it, So when I say to myself that, okay, I want to pick up this solo and I want to play along with it, I just do it, and I'll not get up until I finish that whole project, be it a recording or be it something that I want to do, or even if it's not music, like if it's filling up a sugar jar or something, I want to finish that and get on to the next. I don't want to do it in installments. You know what I mean? Yeah. So I'm that kind of person. I'm very, very organized. And I like it that way. If you're not like it, if you're not going to be like that, I feel like you don't give your 100%. You're kind of like, you have an option. You have a B, C, D option, and you're not going to give it your all, I feel like. So just focus on what you're doing, finish that, and then go on to the next, At least that way it works for me. I don't know about other people. Some people are great at multitasking. Good for you if it works, But for me, nah, it doesn't. So now I do not practice, but back then I used to go on for like 8, 9 hours. Yeah. I challenge myself sometimes, like if a radio is on, if my dad is playing some music, like I'm back in Bombay now, so like if I'm at my parents' place, then my dad will put on some music, and then if I see my dad playing the bass and that music is like kind of interesting, I'll be like, can I get your bass? Like I'll just steal the bass from my father's hand and I'll start playing, so that kind of is fun for me. Like I heard something interesting and I want to grab that in my head. So it's like all these talks in my head, So I just take the bass and I start playing along with it. So that itself kind of becomes like I'd say not practice, but just playing the bass. That's enough for me nowadays. If I practice too much, I tend to plan things and I'll only do those things. I'm very good at rattofying. And by rattofying, people who don't know, it means by heart, learning things by heart. I'm very good at that. So I don't want to do that. I said that to myself like a couple of years ago, like maybe 2-3 years ago. I'm like, I don't want to do that anymore. I just want to let myself flow and just
Keep
see
it more
where my,
instinctive.
yeah, yeah.
Very cool. So what sort of music is usually playing in the Day household? What sort of music do you guys listen to as a family normally?
So mother is like a Hindustani classical singer, so she hears all these like R.D. Burman songs, and yeah, so she'd be singing all those old black and white songs. And my father, on the other hand, he's like a funkster, he loves funk just like me. I love black funk. And so we'd always be hearing a lot of like funk music, like Dave Weckels' album, or like Abraham Laboriel or John Patitucci, Carter Beaufort, and all these things. And for my mom, it's like bouncer about the head. But she has a very good understanding because obviously she's been in this household for so long, even before me. She has a very good time in her body, She can tell if this is like 5'4" or 5'8". I'll be like, oh, this is 13 and a half. I'm like, whoa, how did that happen? So she's very good at that.
Awesome. We had asked people to send their questions in earlier, and your sister sent us a question, Esani, and she asked whether you remember the time that she accidentally chopped off a bunch of your hair.
Oh my God. Shit. Don't remind me of that. I'm going to chop her hair off. And I was literally going to do that, but my parents, I told you, like, I'm such a rebel, and my parents have been very, very, like, strict with both of us. But she was just kidding, and she just chopped off a bunch of my hair, like, in the front, like, a lock. And my father was holding me, and my mother was holding my sister, and I'm like, I'm going to chop your hair off, and blah, blah, blah. And she's like, no, 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 no. I'm like, you try and sleep, and you're going to wake up with no hair in the morning.
But so what's your relationship with her like, and what's it like to play music with your sister?
Oh, it's been a long time since we've done music together. Let me tell you that, because we have such different lives. She's such a studio person, and I'm like always traveling, so we hardly get any time. And all the time I spend with my family. So when I come back, we play a lot of carom, we play a lot of Uno, badminton or cricket, all these things. Back then, like maybe I'd say 6-7 years ago, we used to play together a lot, and we had a band together called New Generation. And sometimes we still, like, I try and pitch in for that band when I get proposals from like festivals. Maybe we'll do shows, who knows, but back then we did like maybe 3 to 4 gigs with that band. Gino is a part of band. Gino Banks is a part of that band. So I like sing, and we do a little bit of Konakal. It's a fusion band, So some of her songs, some of my songs. And back then we used to play together a lot. But like now, since we are both very busy, she has to go to studio every single day, And I miss her. I really miss her. Like every morning I'd ask her that, do you have to go to the studio today? And she always has to, Only Sunday she gets an off. So that time probably I'd be busy, or, I was living in Bangalore for the past like 8 months, And now, like, I'd say it's been half a month I've been back in Mumbai. And it's so nice to be back to family. It's so nice to be close to family, I tell you. Like, there was a time, I think we all go through this as kids. Like, there is a time when we want to move out and we want to do our lives and we want to do us and everything. But there comes a time when you're like, no, I don't want this anymore. I want to be close to my family. So now I'm very, very happy, and mentally also I'm very, very happy. I went through a breakup after a 4 years long relationship, so that was very, very hurtful, and it does a lot. Like, I gave my everything and anything to that relationship, so it was very, very hard. But now that I'm back, I feel like I'm safe. I feel safe. I feel comfortable, and I am able to move forward. I'm keeping myself busy with like a lot of my projects, so thank God for that. And I just distract myself, to be frank. I just want to move ahead and be happy. And like, that's on a good note. My first single is coming out on my birthday, 20 July. that song is actually a love story between me and my ex, yeah, and I'm very, very happy to have amazing musicians on it like Steve Vai, Gino Banks, Jordan Rudess, Dallas Horns, and myself. I'm singing and I'm playing bass, and I've done all the arrangements, all the writing, and everything. I wrote this song when I was in Japan, touring with this band called Peace last year. And yeah, I'm very happy. Nothing can stop any hardworking person, Nothing bad happens to a hardworking person. I always believe that.
Amen. That was such a nice line. Nothing bad happens to a hardworking person, and nothing can stop a hardworking person. And it's great. It's great to hear that you're well and that you're happy. That's fantastic.
Way better, and I'm busier, and I'm happier than before. Like
wonderful, wonderful. Looking forward to the single. Really looking forward to the single. You've collaborated with some amazing musicians, and you yourself are a phenomenal musician.
Yes.
Yeah. I want to go back to your playing style and talk about that for a while. I mean, in the normal context, the bass is viewed as being just the instrument in the background, holding up the rhythm section, locking with the drums. It's a very set sort of template for what a bass player should be usually. But you as a virtuoso bass player, you bring the bass to the forefront. It's not only about holding up the back end and the rhythm section. It's also about soloing and sort of being in the foreground as well. So how do you balance both those styles of playing in your style?
I mean, bass itself is such a, I believe bass itself is a backbone of the band. It has to act like a backbone of the band because its frequency is so unusual that it is a part of rhythm section as well as the melodic section,
Yeah.
Able to, I'd put it that way. It is able to do both the things. And I feel like that's why the responsibility on the bass player is a lot more than any other instrumentalist in the band, since I understood that at a very young age, and I was introduced to a lot of percussionists and a lot of melodic harmonic instruments, I had the understanding of how a bass is such an unlimited, such a I don't know, like it has no limits, it has no boundaries. It can literally sound like anything. At least that's what I told myself. And till date, I'm happy the way I sound. I'm very, very. I've always loved my sound, and I've always cherished and celebrated that. I've never wanted to sound like anybody, And when I say that, I also will put it this way that I know that a lot of people will say that, oh, you sound a little bit like this guy, or you sound a little bit like this guy. That's because we have grown listening to those bass players. So you will find some kind of similarities, But like I said, when you started interviewing me, I'm like a good fusion of everything, good fusion of the Indian culture, good fusion of the Western culture, and all the musicians that I've grown up listening to, including the Indian musicians that I've grown up playing with, as well as the Western musicians that I've grown up playing with. Since I infused everything that I like listening to and I loved in my heart, I just put it in my playing, and that happened not consciously. That was not a conscious decision. It just happened naturally. It's like I'm talking to you, and if you say something, that will stay with me, and I'd like to pick that up and I'd pass it on to somebody else because I feel like that's beautiful. So same way with music, since it's also a language, we all want to just pass it on in our next generation and people around us and people we love communicating with, people we love playing with in our case, So yeah, it's not like there is no formula to it. If there's no shortcut to it. It just happens naturally.
Awesome. And you've been collaborating with musicians from across the world for a long time now. How did that first begin for you? And what advice do you have for Indian musicians who are trying to make their mark globally?
Oh, good question. I never demanded anything in my life. I did not have a goal. I did not have any wishes as a person growing up. When I decided that, okay, I do want to take up bass professionally, that time also I did not have this in my mind that, oh, I want to work with that musician one day. I want to work with that artist one day. I never had those dreams or goals. I was just playing because I loved playing and I just wanted to keep playing. And even today, I feel like I have the same mindset. Like okay, maybe one person I do want to, I'll get to that later, but there has never been a thought in my head where I'm like, oh shit, I will not die peacefully if I don't get to play with that person. Like I want to play with that person. It's never been like that. I've been very fortunate to have people contact me, maybe because the internet kicked in. And since I was very young and a girl and I was playing my ass off for my age, that got me a lot of exposure. Recognition. And when the internet kicked in, I also made good use of it. I always tell this to people. Internet is the biggest education, and if you can make the most out of it, that's it. You will have your own career. I started putting out a lot of videos of myself, even if it's just one lick or like scales. Me practicing at home, I started to just put out videos from a very, very young age. And till date, I still do it. Like, even if I'm recording for somebody or if I'm fiddling around or just doodling, I just record myself and I just put it out. Be it bad or good. I don't care. I just put it. And that keeps a buzz in everybody's ears. That keeps a buzz in the industry. And I feel like when you create that buzz and when you know that, oh, there is some, and that itself is a huge achievement, I feel like. Then you will get contacted. Then you will get proposals for that kind of work. So that's why I tell people to not post stuff which is common, because internet can be tricky. Social media can be tricky. You have to put out stuff that catches people eye. If it's just like any other, then it will not catch attention. I was saying that, when I go out in the world and people tell me that, oh, you play so fast, how do you do that and everything? And I tell people that's not the only thing I do. Just because you only see that on the internet, that's not what I do. I can do that, but that doesn't mean I only do that. When I'm playing in A.R. Rahman's band, do you see me playing what I usually do? No, I don't. I am just at the back and just playing for the music, playing what is only required. And when he tells me that, oh, this is your spot, then that's my spot. But apart from that, you have to learn to complement, be it music or anything else. You have to learn to complement. Otherwise, there is no conversation. And same way, when you're putting out stuff in the world on social media, on a platform like social media, you're actually opening a door for a conversation in people. Um, so since I started doing that from a very young age, till now I do it. That's why I guess I stay those years. And okay, she's working hard and she's playing with all these musicians. And to answer your question, I think that got me the recognition in the Western world, where people started noticing me in the US, to be specific, and they started contacting me through my email ID, through my DMs, and people started asking me if I'd be interested in being a part of their project or recording on their songs and everything. And that's where slowly things started to happen. My first collaboration with an international artist, I'm trying to think. It's so hard. I can't remember. I cannot. Um, Shit. No, I can't. It's just too many, and I don't remember when was the first time I got to work with my first international musician. Because maybe if I was super excited, then I would have remembered. But like I said, I've never been like starstruck. So, but I've always been a person who has looked forward to the good things ahead. I get excited in a good way, where I want to do my best in terms of my musicality and in terms of my professionalism. So I have a long-term relationship with whoever I'm working with. Um, so whoever I've worked with, say Steve Vai, Jordan Rudess, Marco Miniman, Guthrie Govan, Mike Stern, so many people, Stanley Clark, Victor Wooten, and blah, 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 etc., to name a few. Everybody, they're all good friends with me. So you always have to think in a way to keep a steady future, a journey ahead. If you're only looking forward to impress that person one time, it's not going to last. You're only going to be in the years for that moment. It takes seconds for people to forget you, you know? So you have to make your mark in such a way which is which leaves space for wooing other people in the coming times, you know.
Really good points. Really good
Yeah.
points. Thank you. You spoke also about how you are very business minded and you think about your about business, and you also are very skilled at your instrument, obviously. So, apart from being business minded and being skilled at an instrument, what else would you say that modern day musicians need to be to make a living from their music? What skills do musicians require to make a living from music?
I don't know, man. I've never had any formula, like I said, you know. I cannot answer this question. I'd only say one thing, which is if you show love to something and if you put the right amount with the true soul, with your loyalty and don't cheat in any way, then it will show love back to you. I've only worked hard myself. I've never made anybody sad in my life. I've never done anything wrong in my life. I've only worked my ass off, you know, towards my music to get where I am. And it's like I always say this, like, say, take for example my hair. You know, if I don't show love to my hair, it will not grow. You know, it will be stuck. You know, so same way, it's like your body. If you have a goal and if you have a vision of a certain type of body, if you just keep saying it's not going to happen until you start working on it. If you show love to your body, it will change. You know, be it bad way or good way. That's on you. How you treat it. You know. So treating and consistency go hand in hand, you know?
Absolutely, and thanks for simplifying that and saying it so simply, because I think sometimes we try to overcomplicate these things, and your answer
Yeah,
was spot on. Yeah. So
not, yeah.
um, I want to know what's it like being a female musician in a very male dominated industry, and
Hmm.
do you have thoughts on how we can encourage more women to pursue a career in music?
I think we're already on a good track. I think women today are more vocal about their needs, you know? Back in the times, women were a little, you know, shy. And if I say there was a little bit of shyness and coyness to their, you know, demeanor. And now women are more aware of what they want, and maybe that's because of their emotional independence and financial independence. You know,
Yeah,
uh, maybe, and that's what gives them the strength and power to realize what they actually want in their lives. You know, and I feel like I don't need to say anything to anybody, but I'll only say one thing: take care of yourself and work towards building your future. And don't let anybody what do you say? If I may say, don't let anybody handle your mind. Like, don't give so much power to someone who can actually rule your mind, because that really happens. You know, when you fall in love with someone, when you be it anything, be it in a relationship or anything, or even if it's like in a band, when you trust someone so much and when you give it your all, sometimes we start becoming that person and start living in that person. You know, living in that environment, and in a way you don't even realize, unknowingly you are actually you're actually becoming like a puppet. You know, you get all these things and you keep giving chances, and you're actually going by what is your boundary. So I feel like don't let anybody rule you. uh, Let you rule you. And yeah, that's the only thing I'd say for girls. That's the biggest thing. Like, don't give power to anybody to rule your mind. You do you. You know, be
awesome,
happy.
absolutely.
Yeah, even with men, like I feel like everybody should be happy first. If you don't compromise for anybody, that's a big no-no at first only. You know, down the line, it just keeps happening. And like I said, when you love someone, it's just natural to happen. But I feel like there's a fine line to it. There has to be a balance, and it has to be two-sided. Same with a relationship. Same with your relationship with whatever work you're doing, be it music or any other field. You know, there is a fine line, and you need to know when you have to stop. When you know when you have to stop, you are mature and you're more experienced. Like today, I'm a very, very experienced person of from all the experiences that I've gone through, and I know what not to do in the next one. I know what not to do in all the work that I do in the industry. And same way with your personal life. I feel like since I talk, I infuse my life with my career so much because I am the same person even in the industry. I don't let people tell me that you have to do like this. No, I have my individuality. I am an independent girl. I work, I earn, I have my own house. I do me, and I've always been like that. That doesn't mean that you should be disrespected. You should rather be respected, and you should give respect back to whoever is around you. And we're in a world where everything is a teamwork. If I'm not there, then a band is incomplete. If a band is not there, I won't have a work. If we don't have musicians in the world, then interviewers are not going to have any job. And same way, vice versa. So we're all in this together, and we have to learn to support each other in the right terms and right mind. But don't depend on someone so much that you forget your own work and forget your own happiness. Even when you're doing something, find your space, and you have to learn to be happy with yourself first, before making anybody else happy, or vice versa.
Thanks. Yeah, absolutely agree. We have a question from Javier Mauro 3. He says, what kind of music that you don't play would you like to play?
Sorry?
What kind of music that you don't play at the moment would you like to play? So is there a genre that you haven't played or a style that you would like to play and try at some point?
No idea. With me, the thing is, like, I don't even categorize different styles. I do not. For me, it's just music, as long as it makes me feel good, I'm fine. Like, I don't want to put tags. I'm not about tags. Jitna mujhe samajh mein aata hai, bas I'm happy.
Right.
So it's cool. It's cool, then I'd show my coolness on the music, and it would make me feel cool.
Yeah.
So yeah, I don't know what that question is.
And there's also another question from Priyanka who's asking about whom would you like to collaborate with? Any artist that you like to collaborate with?
Yeah, I have. Now, this is my only wish. I would love to work with Bruno Mars one day. Yeah, one day, hopefully.
All the best for that. We'll be cheering you on to and hope that happens for you. And for Bruno.
Somewhere.
And for Bruno. It has to happen for Bruno. He has to have the good fortune of playing with you.
Oh my God. No.
Yeah. I have a question for you as well. So do you follow the independent music scene in India by any chance? And if you do, are there Indian bands that you have heard recently that have impressed you?
Follow, but like if it catches my eye, then I have a look, like on Facebook or in YouTube. If there are advertisements, then I go click and I take a look that way. Yeah, but I don't like follow or anything. Yeah.
Yeah, and any bands that come to mind that you've been impressed with lately in the Indian scene?
Thaikudam Bridge. Yeah, I love Thaikudam Bridge. I really like, and I love Benny the Owl's band. They have a very kick-ass tight band. Yeah, these two bands. And of course, Clinton Serage's music I really love.
Right.
If I had to name directors like writing, Clinton is the guy. Like his writing is amazing. I've worked with him a few times, like in his band live shows. It's such a blast, Yeah.
We have a technical question from Leslie Rodriguez 77 who asks, how do you set your bass bridge? Is it C-shaped or flat?
Ooh. I think it's flat. Yeah, some of my basses are C-shaped, but this one, the one that I play, is flat. Yeah.
All right. A question from Hrik Sengupta, who asks about your experience playing with Guthrie Govan. What was that like?
Incredible. It's amazing. I love playing with him, and I love talking to him because we think so alike, and that's the best relationship you can have. Like, if you can communicate well and play and have fun at the same time, it's amazing. Like, that's all you want in a band to tour with, And of course, when I was touring, Gino was playing drums, so that was like a cherry on the top. He's like my big brother, He has seen me grow up, and I've seen him grow up with me. We have both evolved in our own ways, kind of together in different bands, So that has been very, very overwhelming. It was an overwhelming experience for me. At first, when I did the first tour with Guthrie Govind, it was a little bit scary for me because everything and anything was going wrong with me in terms of like my cabinet. So I'll give you some examples. Like one of the concerts, I was reading my charts, and my charts just flew into the audience suddenly. You know, that was a disaster. You know, uh, and that song somehow I survived. But then, yeah, it was one of the hardest and worst nights I could ever have. And the other one was like this happened in, and all these things happened in that specific tour. My weight stopped working,
Crazy.
and yeah, my cable stopped working. My monitor just blew up. My cabinet blew up, and this happened in different gigs, by the way. So something or the other was going wrong, and I was like, oh my god. I was anyway nervous about the material because I hadn't played anything like that before. So on top of that, things like this happening, it was like, oh my god, is there anything left to happen? But the second tour was such a success. Like I was very, very good on the second tour. Yeah.
Awesome. Unfortunately, we're out of time though, because Instagram will end this live session anytime now. But I want to thank you so much for your time, Mohini. Thank you. And
Thank you.
absolute pleasure. It's been an absolute pleasure. Thanks for all the wealth of information you shared. And from all of us at What's the Scene, we wish you the very best for all your future goals, especially the one of where you want to play with Bruno Mars. We hope that works out very soon. Cheering you on. And those of you watching, Mohini has a new single coming out on the 20th of July. It's called Can You Feel Me? And Mohini has composed the song. She's sung on it. She's played bass, obviously, and she's also collaborated with some fantastic musicians, Steve Vai, Jordan Rudess, Gino Banks, and others. So Dallas Horn. So do check it out and show it a lot of love when it comes out for sure. Thank you again, and thanks everyone who's been here.
Thank you so much, everyone. Have a good day, good rest of the day.
See you. Bye-bye.
See you.